All right.
Oh, okay. I can still see things in studio. And it looks good. Should still be able to see if anybody chats over. Okay, and show notes brought up there. Anything else I need? Oh, does somebody want to post in the Telegram the link?
Oh yeah, I'll do that.
Perfect. And everybody has their microphones hot for the next part.
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, there's enough silence here anyway.
I have a bad habit of putting this microphone a bit further away. I shouldn't. I should keep it close.
Yeah, this one's pretty far away from me.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep mine. I don't know, that far away.
Yeah,
I guess
I know. Isn't it the optimum is what, 6 inches or something like that? I can't remember.
Depends on the microphone.
I vaguely
Some of them
remember
are
Eric
better at
telling me that
3.
one. I find this one keeps getting a lot of my kind of air sounds if I'm too close to it.
Yeah.
you need a little felt on
Cover.
top.
Yeah, I can see
yeah.
that a lot of my ambient
Helps.
noise is coming across.
This scissor arm's the best. I think it was only like 30 or 40 bucks I've ever spent.
Hold on. Computer, turn off fan.
Oh, look at you. Like Star Trek,
I
The
know.
Next Generation. Computer.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, you can do that to Alexa, innit? You can do that
It
to
is.
Alexa,
That's
innit?
what it is.
I did that as well.
I don't like talking to my computer.
Yeah, because the
I'll
word
talk to myself.
Because the word
My
computer almost never gets said in my house, you know.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, you're on like multiple tech podcasts and have shitloads of infrastructure in your house or anything like that.
And a tech-related job and
Yeah.
all that fun. Okay.
What a man has to do for his geekiness. Do you know what I mean? The struggle is real.
Mm-hmm.
Go on then, Joe. Take it away.
All right. Do the 3, 2, 1, and then 20 seconds of silence just to get the right frame of mind, and we will move from there. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 472. Recorded on Sunday, November 9th, 2025. While the soldering iron is hot, I'm Joe.
Got my tail up. I'm Majid.
A certified bibliophile. I'm Jim.
First up in the news, Mint Monthly News, October 2025. Then, new distro news and updates, and more streaming stuff. In security and privacy, don't trust every PPA. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. Please remember, if you want to follow along with our discussion, the full show notes for this episode are linked in the show's description at mintcast.org/show notes. Link is also in said show notes.
Yeah, I mean, that's recursive to the extreme, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
First up, the news. Mint Monthly News, October 2025. This is from the Mint blog by Clem. Cinnamon Menu. Work continued on the Cinnamon Menu applet. Configuration options were added to be able to move the search bar to the bottom and to be able to position the system buttons in the sidebar. That's interesting. Troubleshooting tools. Despite our best efforts, things don't always work out of the box, right? When troubleshooting issues and finding solutions, you don't only need to find people who are able to help you, you need to be able to give them the information they need to understand your problem and give you the right solution. The steps involved in troubleshooting a hardware-related issue usually are finding the cause of the problem, precisely identifying the device, component, or driver, finding out what to do, applying the recommended solution. The community helps with step 3, but you're usually on your own with the command line for steps 1, 2, and 4. We worked on making these steps a little bit easier. The System Reports tools was given a plethora of new features, and it was rebranded as System Information. In addition to its System Information, System Reports, and Crash Reports pages, the tool received 4 new pages to show you information and help you troubleshoot common issues. The USB page shows a detailed view of all your plugged-in devices. You can see their type, name, and ID, which uniquely identifies the device and its manufacturer. Devices are grouped by USB controller, so you can see where each device is plugged and compare its connection speed and power usage with the controller's max connection speed and total power capacity. This makes it easy to troubleshoot common USB issues such as slow transfers or random disconnections. The GPU page shows information about your default graphics card and its support for hardware acceleration. The PCI page gives you a detailed look at the internal components of the computer. The PCI ID and the driver in use are very useful when troubleshooting PCI devices. In the BIOS page, you can find information about your motherboard, BIOS version, boot mode, and secure boot. That's interesting that it can pull that much information from the BIOS into the operating system.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've got a couple of thoughts. I'll let you
No,
finish
go
this bit
ahead.
and then I'll tell you my thoughts.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say, it sounds really good, and it's really helpful and useful. I suppose the only thing is any of that information liable to be basically, can someone hack into your system and know everything?
Well, they would
Because that
still
would make
need to be able to have access to your computer to get that specific information. And then, yeah, I guess with the BIOS version, if there is a 0-day that could be used, they could use that. But it still would require them to have access for long enough to be able to get that information. And if they've got that, they've got your computer already.
fair point. Fair point.
Okay. A new tool called System Administration was implemented. Although its UI looks similar to the System Information tool, its goal is slightly different. This tool runs with admin privileges and focuses on administration. For the moment, it only has one page called Boot Menu. At the top, you can show or hide the boot menu and set how long it stays visible before booting the default option. This is very useful if you are dual booting or if you're using multiple kernel series. In the second section, you can add boot parameters. This is sometimes needed when dealing with hardware driver issues. So I guess instead of, going in and manually updating your grub, this makes it significantly easier.
Yeah. So that was my question of where is it getting that information from? Is it getting it? It must be getting it from Grub,
Yeah,
and
directly.
then it's giving it's giving a GUI for it.
Yeah, this is a front end for your grub configuration, which I can see
Okay.
how that would be helpful.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be useful, especially if you're a dual boot type of person. All of this stuff sounds really good, actually.
Yeah.
I would love to. As I said, the only concern I had was about how, if, as I said, if all the stuff is available, really easy to get hold, then could it also be lost and also be hacked? But then, as you said, you've probably got bigger problems if you've got to that stage already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, was there any discussion about when this was coming up, though?
I was
Though?
just going through that right here, and I'm not seeing it either. So I guess because this sounds like major release material to me, not
Yeah, it does. And so I would assume after the next LTS, because that's the next. Yeah, that's the next release, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is, I said, it'll be cool. It looks good. Those what is it they call it? Quality of life improvements.
Okay, then.
I think it also shows that I think it also shows that Clem really understands his user base. He knows the type of people that use Mint. Then we're not complete noobs. Okay, maybe I am, but most people aren't complete noobs. But at the same time, you're not the hardcore tiling window manager, use Arch or whatever. You're kind of in that in between, which is, yeah, I think
I think this will
a
also
lot of
make
a
it
lot of us are.
easier for new users as well. I mean, at least it's preventing you from having to dig as much through the command line to find these. It's giving a
Hmm.
slightly easier way to update your grub or check what's connected to your USB and try and
Hmm.
find what's causing whatever problem.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. LMDE 6 is end of life. LMDE 6 will reach the end of life on January 1st, 2026. Past that date, the repositories will continue to work, but the release will no longer receive bug fixes or security updates. To upgrade the 64-bit version of LMDE 6 to LMDE 7, you can visit the link in the show notes. To the blog, the 32-bit version will unfortunately not be upgradable. Proper support for 32-bit was dropped by many upstream projects, Debian, Ubuntu, Mozilla, Chromium, so we cannot continue to support this architecture type anymore.
Fair
So,
enough. Fair enough.
I love
I
32-bit.
was going to ask a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Why do you love 32-bit? Is it because of the gaming side?
No, it's just that whole, keeping old stuff alive. Something about those old style netbooks that are still just awesome to me. Being able to keep those running until the hardware actually, deteriorates. So, but I
I
do
mean, they probably
understand
are, though, aren't they? Been
deteriorating some
15
of them.
years
Yeah,
now, I think.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's been. Um, I just had one quick question, which is, how does it work with previous Debian? So upstream Debian. So there'd be Debian 12, which is what LMD 6 was based on. How long support does that happen when there is a new version of Debian? How does that work in their project?
I don't know.
Okay, because I mean because on the one hand, I did think to myself, you've only just released LMD 7, and now you're gonna end of life LMD 6 in what, 6 weeks time? So it seemed a little bit quick to me, but then I didn't know whether that is because when Debian moves from 12 to 13, they just completely stop any work on 12. So that's why I
Maybe,
was asking that question.
maybe it also could be the dropping of the 32-bit support.
Hmm.
Because I mean, it does suck that it's dying, but it's completely understandable as the percentage of people that use 32-bit machines dips extremely low.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Do
and your
any of
point
you
about the
have
Atom
a
chips.
30?
I have some, but none
Mm.
of them are actually in production. I mean, I can see a netbook from here, but I am, in my garage.
Yeah, I
I haven't
don't at
got any.
all. I got rid of my oldest computer last year from 2006. It was a Core 2 Duo desktop, a heavy one. And even that one was 64-bit. You
Yeah,
know, it ran 32-bit Windows XP, but actually I realized when I put Linux on it, it was 64-bit. So yeah, I'm long past 32-bit machines.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I do think that, your point about, keeping things alive until the hardware deteriorates. Well, we're probably at that stage now. Do you know what I mean? I
20
think the
years,
last
yeah.
netbooks, yeah, I mean, the last
See,
netbooks
all you're
that you're
doing
talking
talking
about
like
were
this
out
is
in
making me want to
2010.
put one back together again.
Oh, go ahead. Well, you were the one asking for projects, yeah? So
Oh
there you
no,
go.
I
Here's
got
another one for you.
no. I've actually got Batacera, a 32-bit version of Batacera, set up on a really really old ThinkPad. What's the X11? So it's a smaller one. It's almost netbook size.
Hmm.
So I'll keep that running for a while. But anyways, let's move on from there. Next up, XSI. That's XApp Symbolic Icons. Although Adwaita icon theme is still a dependency on libgtk, it no longer supports applications outside of GNOME. Some of the symbolic icons it provided were simply removed, leading to regression in many projects, who relied on them. For instance, if you are running Cinnamon in LMDE7 or Arch Linux right now, you can right-click your panel and see the missing symbolic icons. To replace the Adwaita symbolic icons, a new XApp project was started called XSI, and link in the show notes, XApp symbolic icons. All the XApp, Cinnamon, and Mint projects switched to XSI.
So which icons are missing though?
I
That's
haven't
what I'm not
seen them,
sure.
but I haven't,
Yeah.
and I'm not that far behind on updates, so I don't know.
Again,
Hold
he
on.
knows his audience.
If you are running Cinnamon in LMDE7 or Arch Linux right now,
So it's not in the main line.
right, those aren't quite
Okay.
as caught up yet. We wouldn't see them in Cinnamon yet.
Okay, but if it's this, okay, I'm probably just not understanding. But if the mainline version is based on the same things, then unless they've already implemented this in 22.3 or
Well,
whatever,
in
then I'm just trying to wonder what. As I said, I'm just trying to figure out what specific thing it is that they're obviously covering a gap, right? With this, I just don't know what that gap is. That's all.
missing icons.
Oh well. Anyway.
Just poor iconography.
Okay then. So, GNOME 50 ends the X11 era after decades. This is from Linuxiac, but again, it's on around quite a few of the different tech press. Wayland has been GNOME's default session since 2016. X11 has continued to linger in the code base until now. That changed with the recent merging of two releases, which completely removed the X11 code base for Mutter, which is GNOME's default window manager and compositor. So basically, GNOME is completely closing that chapter. From 50 onwards, there will be no X11 session available, and Wayland will be the only option. This doesn't mean that X11 applications are dead, because X-Wayland is still fully supported, serving as a compatibility layer. And for most users, this transition will be pretty transparent. According to the developers, the change is necessary evolution rather than a break. By retiring the X11 session, GNOME can focus entirely on advancing Wayland-based workflows, especially around fractional scaling, HDR, color management, input handling. So what are these kind of practical implications? Well, if you rely on GNOME under an X11 session, this will become unsupported, or at least not default from GNOME 60. If you use X11 only applications, you'll still be okay with X-Wayland because you're not getting rid of that compatibility layer. And for extension authors, window managers, or tooling that assumes a support, you now need to test if you've got Wayland compatibility. And so that looks like it is the end. And I think there is a similarity to the discussion we were having about 32-bit in that sometimes you just need to move on. And GNOME, which has always been, GNOME always has been the one that will always try and move things on, maybe too quickly, but they've always been like that. So this doesn't surprise me.
They did try to move away from X11 the first time way too early. But no, I do agree that, X11 probably does need moved away from, just because of, the decades and decades of spaghetti code that's there, and just all the vulnerabilities and a lot of the overhead because of all the extra things. But I think it's still going to be a while before it's, really dead and gone.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I think the fact that we've got X-Wayland, haven't we, to kind of fill that gap, as it were. The whole Wayland project, if you think about it, has been going on for a while. I mean, I remember first hearing about it in 2013, 2012, maybe even. So yeah,
About the first time
it's obviously
they
been.
tried to make the switch.
So in that sense, it's just a sign of the times, I suppose, really.
We're still
I
holding out
suppose,
on cinnamon, right?
It's going to be in the next probably major release, or maybe the one after that.
yeah, I mean, because I mean, there is an experimental Wayland session already, and the blueprint, the map, whatever word you want to use, uh, for the future did have a working option that, I not experimental, but a completely baked one for 2026.
Yeah.
So and you know, 2025 somehow is finishing, and so we are kind of getting up to that. Um, so we'll see how that works out. I mean, I don't think hopefully most people won't notice anything specific, any big differences. Um, it's one of these things of, if you don't notice it, it means it's been done well. I think, you know, if you notice it, it's a problem. Okay, so going on, I seem to be doing a lot of distro news today. So this one I wanted to put in. It's from Phoronix. CachyOS continues delivering leading performance over Ubuntu 25.10 and Fedora 43, which has just been released. With Intel having sunset Clear Linux, when it comes to aggressive out-of-the-box Linux performance, there is the Arch Linux-based CachyOS as a leading contender. And given the recent releases of 25.10, Ubuntu, and Fedora 43, if you were curious about some of the performance in Cachy, then here there are a couple of fresh benchmarks which were done using the on the framework desktop, and the article goes through lots of graphs and things, which basically show that the modifications, optimizations that the Cachy team have done have increased raw performance. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you are someone who's a gamer, that's always important. And Cachy does seem to be one of these distros that people who are into Linux gaming, or converting to Linux for the gaming, seem to be going for. I mean, Cachy is top of distro watch rankings, and I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. It just means people are clicking on the website. But it is definitely something that, you know, you do see in the press and stuff. And I quite enjoyed my little experiment, my multiple experiments with Cachy, actually.
So
Um,
so it just it has less overhead. It just boots up quicker. Like,
yeah, all of that.
okay.
I
So
mean,
it
as I said, the article's got really kind of nerdy stuff, which I can't even bloody understand. I've got to be completely honest. Maybe you will be able to. Um, but yeah, it just shows that when using the benchmarking software, it works out better. And I did notice it as well when I used it as well, that it was like, oh, this machine doesn't seem so crap anymore. So yeah, just a little bit of a shout out to the to Cachy. Moving on in distro news, Elementary, um, Elementary OS. Which version is it? 8, is it? Has 8.0.2 has a whole bunch of feature updates as they get closer to Elementary 8.1, and so this is from Daniel Fore's blog on the Elementary website. They've got a couple of new apps. So they've got a new Maps app, which can be used on any Linux OS. It's evolved from the Atlas code base originally written by Stefan Schumann for Elementary OS. They've tried hard to maintain the code and update it to the latest platform libraries in GTK4. And now they've tried to bring in a lot of their kind of UI elements and the UI flair, I suppose, if you want to put it that way, or signature that Elementary have, as well as some, icon changes. They have revamped their App Center with a home updates and installed apps button, properly labeled for screen readers. I know that Danielle has done a lot of work with accessibility, I think because, is it her brother? Has got some kind of, has some accessibility needs anyway. And other things that they're doing is around the dock. 75% of people said in a desktop survey that they expected to see background apps in the dock, and so now there's a background portal support in the dock. And then you can see a list of what's running already. There's some changes to the panel and settings, changes again to the login and lock screen, and there's apparently more stuff. You can get these updates if you're running elementary OS 8 and just update to get them all. And that's about it, really. And it also has, sorry, I forgot to mention that it also has initial support for fingerprint enrollment in the user settings, obviously, depending on which fingerprint thingy that you've got and what drivers and stuff it has. Yeah, for people who like to use elementary, some more changes and tweaks and apps. I think I've messed around with elementary. I think famously I messed around with elementary in the middle of a Linux OTC podcast. Um, wasn't for me, but some people like it, and if you do, there's some more stuff here for you. Either of you guys ever used elementary significantly, by the way?
I think I tested it once, but that was several years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's supposed to
Okay.
be a lot simpler to get set up and start using, but I don't know. Mint's always been simple
Yeah.
enough for me.
Yeah, simple and configurable enough. I mean, it is very much of the kind of a lot of the configuration facilities are taken out, if you know what I mean. So that was one thing that I couldn't get on with. But anyway, again, in distro news, Incus OS, I think that's how you pronounce it, announced as an immutable Linux OS with ZFS for running containers. So this is on Phoronix again, and the reason why this I wanted to bring this up was because over the last couple of weeks, if anybody watched Roundtable last week, they were seeing again live tech support of me and my Docker containers, my ZFS pool and stuff like that. It's been 2 years apparently since the Linux container project forked from Canonical's LXD project as Incus. I vaguely remember this. Wasn't this a slightly acrimonious fork, if I remember correctly?
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, I
Is
just
this
remember
is
there was
this
some issues.
another like hypervisor OS?
So it is Incus OS, immutable Linux desktop OS built upon Debian base with an OpenZFS file system support and designed around running containers. The lead developer, Stefan Graeber, says that Incus OS is a modern immutable OS image that specifically designed to run Incus. It provides atomic updates through an A/B update mechanism using distinct partitions, and it enforces boot security through UEFI secure boot and a TPM module. Under the hood, it's built on a minimal Debian 13, using the Zably builds of both the Linux kernel, ZFS, and Incus, providing the latest stable versions of all of these. They rely a lot on the systemd tooling to handle image builds, application installs, system updates, and a variety of other things. It's a very locked down environment where no local or remote shell access is provided. Ooh, hadn't picked that bit up. Okay. Entire system is configured and operated through the Incus API using either TLS client certificate authentication or external OIDC authentication. And so there is a link in the article on Phoronix for if you want to try it out. Now, I didn't notice the thing about you couldn't have local access to it. So now I'm kind of like, what's the point then? Have I missed something?
Well, it's immutable.
It's just, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, because as I said, I've just been recently getting into Docker and all this kind of stuff and figuring out ZFS. So I just thought, and it was actually shared in our Discord as well. Someone else has put it up saying that, oh, look, this new OS has come out. So if anybody's interested, there's that. Moving on to desktop stuff. KDE Plasma 6.6 has been released. Again, the article that I've got the show link for it, the link that's in the show notes is from Linuxiac, but again, there's quite a few places where it's found. Upcoming KDE Plasma 6.6 adds QR code Wi-Fi setup, memory optimizations, and refinements across system settings in Breeze. The KDE 6.6 and desktop environment is taking shape, and although there are still a few months to go till the final stable release, which is February 17th, 2026, some of the changes are already clear. One of the most notable additions is the option to connect to Wi-Fi networks using a QR code. which sounded like a good idea until I thought to myself, are you really going to go around with your laptop and the camera and try and webcam it? I didn't exactly know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I suppose it would work better with phones and tablets and stuff. And there is obviously Plasma Mobile. Networks widget also includes a small button that opens the QRCA Helper app, allowing you to scan a code instead of typing long passwords. Cache reporting tool has become more useful. That's Dr. Conky can detect crashes from non-KD applications and suggest reporting them to the right developers or your distribution. Some changes to color accuracy and visual consistency. System settings receive plenty of attention too. The remote desktop page now displays these error messages directly on the page, eliminating the need to dig through logs. Bluetooth settings adhere more closely to KD interface guidelines, featuring clearer buttons and enhanced behavior when Bluetooth is disabled. There is some good news around memory use. Apparently, it has been reduced by 100 meg thanks to smarter handling of wallpaper images. Because this change broke tiled wallpapers, developers re-added them through a new tiled wallpaper plugin. HDR displays also get a small upgrade with a new calibration step. Wayland users will notice smoother drag and drop between Xwayland and native apps, along with better support for newer Linux kernels. There's also a new USB portal enabling sandbox applications like Flatpaks to safely access USB devices when necessary. There's some customization and accessibility changes about how visible the borders and outlines around Breeze style interface elements appear, or if you want to turn them off completely. Discover, which is not the best software center, I'll be honest, but it can now recheck for updates immediately after installation is finished. And the slideshow wallpaper grid gains select all and deselect all buttons. The Open VPN dialog uses clearer labels, and the Info Center now responds to the keyword DX diag. Additionally, the number of virtual desktops has increased from 20 to 25. Who would have over 20 virtual desktops? But hey ho. Obviously, KDE users, evidently. There's links in the article to the KDE specific announcements on the KDE project. So I am going to try this out when I can on any of the distros that I've got running, which I've got KDE. Again, quality of life stuff. Make it just a bit nicer and a bit smoother. Don't think anything's groundbreaking. I don't think anything's here that's going to make you want to switch away from something else if you're a diehard Cinnamon, GNOME, or XFC or Mate user, but it looks like nice stuff.
KDE is always
The one
pretty.
thing I didn't see, the one thing I didn't see actually was whether this will be in how it will be released, whether it will be going through the new KDE Linux or would it be still KDE Neon. That isn't in the article, so that'll be interesting to find out if anybody does know that.
Excuse
Yeah,
me, am I
pretty shiny.
actually back in the
Yes, you
video?
are. Yes, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah,
There was
I wondered where you
forgive
went.
the interruption, but there was a very large lightning strike as as a sun shower just suddenly poured rain. And even though I have I have a half a dozen heavy battery backups, it took everything, my lights, not everything went off, but it interrupted the internet and everything.
Bloody hell.
Forgive
Bloody
the
hell.
interruption.
No, that's absolutely fine. Ike Doherty, famous Linux contributor to many different projects, a guy that I have inadvertently offended in the past, seems to be missing. So he's been missing from the Erin OS project for the last 6 months. So Erin OS is Serpent OS after it was renamed. And the maintainer confirms that the founder, Ike Doherty, hasn't been in contact for the last 6 months, but assures the project remains stable and on track. It was initially thought that there was some kind of misunderstanding when there was an ISO release saying that Ike had stepped back 6 months ago, but actually it's true. Ike has not been in contact with the project for 6 months. In his absence, I've taken up the project steward role, including planning and directing various development work streams. And this is from Rune Morling, co-founder of the project. In open source circles, Ike's pattern of starting projects and stepping away has been something that
say,
has been
hasn't this
noted since
happened
his early
before?
days. Yeah, since his early days as founder and leader of Solus. I hope that there's no specifically. I hope there's no bad reason for this, because it is worth noting back in early February, Ike had shared an unusually candid message saying he was facing serious financial troubles. Although it's unclear whether that has anything to do with his current absence from the project. And if you look at his GitHub profile, that's a more concerning picture because after a streak of 2,400 contributions for the last year, his activity suddenly stopped around mid-April. I hope everything's okay. I hope he's okay. I think in the grand scheme of things, the state of Erin OS is probably less important than making sure he's all right. But if anybody does use Erin OS, at least the project is still going okay, and we just hope that Ike's all right. He's somebody that, if you've been listening to or been involved in Linux, he's a well-known name. So I thought it was worth mentioning about that. And last but not least from me, I know I've gone on quite a bit. This was more of a discussion thing because I wanted to ask her. I had some questions about this. So Linuxiac has Debian's apt package manager to integrate Rust code by May 2026. Debian developers confirmed that Rust will become a hard dependency for apt starting May 2026, aligning with modern development practices. In a message to the Debian developers mailing list, Julian Andres Claude, the long-term Debian developer and one of the primary maintainers, has announced plans to introduce hard Rust dependencies into apt beginning no earlier than May 2026. And there's a whole load about this in the article. The reason why I put it in was Rust seems to be the flavor of the moment, right? And I think didn't I not see that Ubuntu 25.10 has Rust utilities now instead of some of the other ones? What does for someone who doesn't understand the coding side of this, what does this mean, really? Joe?
Okay, they're going to integrate Rust. I mean, Rust has better memory handling. It's also, I think, most people's issue with it was that it was closed source. I'm not sure because I know that there was some debate about it not too long ago, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a problem with this as long as things still work.
Yeah, I mean, the only, again, the reason, what technology is being taken out that Rust is now replacing?
I don't think anything's being taken out. It's just another tool's being added to the box.
Okay. I did see some stuff about the death of certain programming languages because of this. Is that a bit overblown, you reckon?
Fortran is still around, so I'm gonna call BS on that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Bloody Fortran, that's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Flipping
still
heck.
being used.
I wonder who's actually. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's going to be that'll be a
Probably
bit
a
of a tangent digression.
very specialized, high-paying graybeard is maintaining whatever is using Fortran right
Oh
now.
yeah, and probably getting paid a lot to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's probably the only person in the world
Right.
who still can do it well. Yeah, damn, we missed it, man. That was what we should have gone for. Yeah, so that's all of my news bits done. And now over to Jim for some of his news selections.
Oh yeah, I found quite a few interesting things this week. So, well, first from this looks like it's from Tom's Hardware. It says 90% of Windows games can now run on Linux, which is quite impressive, I think. And the companion story I attached to this is related. Linux gamers on Steam finally cross over the 3% mark. So if you're a gamer now, I mean, now is an amazing time to be using Linux because with few exceptions, you're able to play your games, which who knew that would have been possible like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago?
I mean, I think Linux gaming is one of the big success stories of Linux over the last decade, I think. If 10 years ago, in 2015, if you had said these figures, people would have laughed at you. Um, my only the When it says 90% of Windows games now run on Linux, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that this is through the Proton compatibility layer,
I would
or
say
that there's
yes.
native?
No, it's
Yeah.
not native.
Yeah, exactly. And so in that sense, actually, I'm not surprised because and Valve, I should say, have done a lot of work on Proton, and the Steam Deck and the success of the Steam Deck is also something which has pushed Linux gaming forward. And as far as I understand it, I mean, I'm not a gamer, as has been made quite evident. Um, People who are into hardcore gaming really want to eke out the most amount of performance from their hardware. And it now seems, even under a compatibility layer, you're going to get more through Linux than you are with Windows native. So it's really good news. It's the
Yeah, the
year of
article.
Linux.
Yeah, it's amazing. The article actually says the viability of Linux as a gaming platform has come on leaps and bounds in recent years, and it specifically attributes this to sterling work by Wine and Proton developers, among others, and plus the interest in the hardware like the Steam Deck, and they derive these stats from Proton DB. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not much of a gamer either. I used to be years ago on Windows, but it is. I think it's fascinating that you can play most games now on Linux. So very good. And then the related story, like I said, 3% of gamers on Steam are using Linux, according to the Steam hardware and software survey for October 2025, as reported on slashdot.org. I think that's part of the same general trend.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
All right, well then
who
I
knew
will
that
move on.
who knew that big tech could actually do something good? Because that's what Valve has really, as I said, pushed the Steam Deck, all that sort of stuff. Good stuff can be done. But yeah, sorry, you were going on.
Yeah, people want to play game. It just shows that how important the gaming culture is to computers in general. So moving on from itsfoss.com, the internet is dying. We can still stop it. So it's a bit of a alarmist article, but it does say that almost 50% of all internet traffic are non-human already, and in unchecked, it could lead to a zombie internet. So,
I think we're
uh,
already there, man. We're already
yeah.
there. I mean, how much it's um trying to search for and find anything nowadays, it's just the enshittification of the web. Google search is pants. Everything is AI. You know, I'm not going to go into the usual rant about, the problems with AI, but it's almost as if as I mean, and I mean referring to big tech, is worsening the internet so that you then use their AI bots more, and then that just makes the whole thing like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a bit crap, so you use AI to filter out the crap, and then the AI just takes over everything, and then it becomes crap, and then do you see what I mean? It's just, I don't know. I don't know. How are they figuring out though that 50% of all traffic is non-human? How have they got those figures from? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the article's not that long. Let's see, how do they arrive at that? I don't know if it's just an estimate. I don't think it specifically says, but
Because I'd just be interested to know. The reason I say that I'd be interested to know is so on a slightly, I don't know if I call it related, but I was listening to think I was listening to the Verge podcast, and they were talking about how there's been some problem between Perplexity and Amazon because people are using Comet, which is Perplexity's AI browser, which is basically Chromium with their AI assistants baked in, using them to scrape Amazon and other shopping sites so that if somebody wants to buy something, they can get, it cheaper through X, Y, and Z. And Amazon were getting kind of annoyed by, what they saw as possible loss of revenue. And in the discussion, they were talking about how it's very difficult for anybody to tell, because of the way the AI is, as to whether something that is being searched for, is it being searched for by a human being or is it being searched for by AI? So that's my only question about how they've come to this 50% of all traffic. If they said 50% of all websites have been made by bots and AI, I mean, it'd be a bit high, but I could kind of see how you would get that data. Just interested to know how they get that data. That's all.
Well, in the article, the chart where they claim this, it says image credit bot traffic report from Imperva, which is a company or a group, and it's shared on informationage.com. So if you're really curious as to the origin of this, the information in this article, it is cited here. And then there's a bunch of anecdotal, information in this article in general. So, yeah, I mean, I think I feel like I can still recognize for myself, when I'm doing searches and stuff, I still feel that Google search and other searches are still useful. And most of the time I could tell when something's, feeding me AI nonsense. But who knows in the future?
Yeah,
how
I mean,
that's gonna go.
I've started moving over to using other search providers like Brave or DuckDuckGo, not because, mainly because I get better results now. I get more sensible results when I'm using them compared to when I'm just using Google. But anyway,
Yeah, I use Start Page, but it doesn't matter what you use. If you use DuckDuckGo, you're getting Bing results. If you use Start Page or some of the other search engines, you're getting Google results. It's just you're not being tracked. That's the value of using those alternate sites. You're not logged in supposedly, and they do feed you advertising in the top few links, but it's not targeted specifically to you.
mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, it's a concern going forward, but we'll see how that shakes out. All right, I'll move on to the next thing. Something that I found interesting. According to ARS Technica, the Internet Archive's legal fights are over, but the founder mourns what was lost. As you know, the Internet Archive archives, web pages. You can go back and see what websites look like years ago. The Internet Wayback Machine. But they also act as a library. They had a gigantic collection of books that were scanned. Mostly older books, not necessarily new bestsellers, but they had quite a collection. And
I'm
Joe
gonna.
wants to say something.
Yes, I do. Now, originally they had all the older books that were out of copyright, but then in what was it, 2020, when COVID came along, special rules were made for libraries in order to be able to share more copies of digital books. That's where Internet Archive came in, and they started getting more modern books that were within copyright. And then when those special laws ended, they didn't back that stuff out. That was what the lawsuit was about, if I remember
Yeah, I
correctly.
believe
Yeah,
there was also a
yeah, and
factor.
I was going to say that's referenced in the article actually. Yeah, sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jim.
they also were running, allowing multiple people to check out the same book at the same time,
Those were
which
those
they didn't
special rules.
previously. Yeah, yeah. So ultimately, the lawsuit was dropped, but they removed 500,000 books from the library. Now, I still use the Internet Archive. I downloaded a few books just in the last couple of weeks. So there's still a lot of interesting books. Now, these are not ancient books that are 100 years old that are, out of copyright. They might be a few years old or 10 years old or whatever. So they're probably still in copyright, but they're not current bestsellers or anything like that, which I believe they stay away from. So, yeah, there are still a lot of books. I recommend it. I think the Internet Archive is fantastic. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff too, video, music, posters, artwork, all kinds of, you can back up all kinds of things on there. But yeah, I kind of mourn the loss of such a large collection of books. I'm a big reader, and you know, I don't like the trend, but at least they're surviving, and they still do have a lot of books. And I'm still reading books there, so I hope they keep going on.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder. So, if they've got books which are still within copyright, there are specific rules around them, around like how many people can be reading it, or am I right about that?
Yes,
Um,
I think literally, and I'm not positive about this, but when you borrow it, I think you are literally the only person in the world who's allowed to borrow that book at any given time. And after an hour, you have to renew it. Now, I don't. Maybe they increase the number of simultaneous borrows to a certain finite number. Instead of it being infinite. Just like when you get ebooks at a real physical library in your town, they only allow each book to be borrowed like 4 times or 6 times or 8 times. It's a certain number. That many
mhm,
people could borrow them at the same time. And then you have to go into the queue. If it's a popular new bestseller, you might be 12th or 15th or 50th in the queue. And you may have to wait a week or 2 or 3. So they do have some limits on it. And I don't know if the Internet Archive has agreed to just go back to one book, one person, which is doable if it's, an older book that is not something really popular. They probably can do it like that.
mhm. I mean, I know that, for example, when it comes to like Arabic and kind of Islamic law books, there's loads and loads on there. Much easier to get, and these are like editions of 300, 400-year-old books or whatever. And so especially if you're an Arabic reader and speaker, there are some really good things up there. Surprisingly good. It just can be a little bit difficult to find. None of those are going to be in copyright, obviously, because they're hundreds of years old. But yeah, I mean, I think it is just a case of certain rules come in, rules change. You need to be on top of it, otherwise you can find yourself on the wrong side of it. And maybe it sounds like maybe they're on the wrong side of it. This is how they've ended up on the wrong side of those specific things. I need to use. I mean, I use archive.org in the same way that we use archive.org to host the shows and stuff. I've never really read a huge amount off there specifically, but now you have inspired me to look a bit more, Jim.
Yeah, use the search engine. You could, whatever subject or authors or I read nonfiction, so I often find books that I'm interested in. And I did give a tip. One of the previous episodes, there's a
Yeah, the
Firefox extension.
extension. Yeah. I saw
So
that.
I like, especially nowadays, I think it's useful to download your book, and have it on your local storage. And I even gave you another tip on what app to use to read it on your tablet.
Mm,
So at least in case they pull it, if they're forced to pull something, you'd still have it. So,
hmm
all right, next, we're going to talk about the Fire TV again. Amazon is already blocking piracy apps on Fire TV. Now, that sounds alarming as someone who has several Fire TV devices, but it looks like the apps they're banning are not Jellyfin or Kodi or Plex, which have legitimate uses, both as streaming services, like in Plex case, and as a tool to watch your content stored on your local hard drives on your network. But they're specifically banning IPTV apps. So that's already started, according to what I read online. So those, they don't even have the cover of being a legitimate app that could be used for non-piracy sources. So, uh, but still, it is concerning. You don't want them to decide, hey, we're not going to allow Plex, we're not going to allow Jellyfin. That would be a major blunder. I don't think
Yeah,
they're going to
that'd
get
be a
there though.
massive thing. Yeah. So I mean, if it's, I mean, it's very difficult to get annoyed at people like Amazon blocking stuff which is clearly illegal. Do you know what I mean? I mean, what did you expect them to do? The more interesting thing I thought was about the fact that in the article it talks about how, because we were talking about this last time, didn't we? About how the new Fire Sticks are having this Vega OS, Linux based, which won't allow side loading and all this kind of stuff. And the fact that it doesn't look like they're going to be upgrading the, we can call it a downgrade, but changing the operating system basically on existing devices from their Android fork to Vega OS. I thought that's an interesting one, because I don't think it's had a good reception, this new Vega OS. I don't think people like it at all. Bill bought one. It's shame if Bill's not on, actually. He would have told us what it was like. But he bought one and he got annoyed very quickly, very easily.
Yes, on the pre-show yesterday, we discussed that, and I
Uh-huh.
tried to shame him into returning it to show them a lesson that you refuse
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. 100%.
to accept this. He's still within his 30-day return period, because yeah, to me, it's just not acceptable. But I was reassured, however, by the article that said they are not intending to replace all the old, or Fire TV devices that run some version of Android that we're all currently
They'll
using
just
and happy
eventually
with.
stop updating it.
Perhaps. I think we've got a few years.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. At the moment, I'm still quite happy with them. So I think the ecosystem will. In my opinion, it's still one of the better ecosystems to be in. So, all right.
And I
Also
suppose
in.
there's, and
Go
also
ahead.
I suppose, I mean, these things are always kind of like a bit of an arms race, isn't it? People go to ban certain things and then they come up again. So I mean, I don't even know why they're bothering. I'm sure somebody will fork something or the other for and make it come out in whatever IPTV app it is. So once they figure out that, okay, this isn't the one, then there'll be another version. There'll be a fork of that, whatever. So
Right.
it's a little bit kind of, I do feel they're a bit pissing in the wind. But if it makes them feel better to do it, then go ahead.
Yeah, as long as they don't lock down the existing, Fire TV 4K, 4K Max, or not allow us to, install apps from other sources, I think we're okay. Uh, Elsewhere in the media, from ARS Technica, something else I've been following, YouTube TV Disney blackout reminds users that they don't own what they stream. I believe this is still ongoing as of today, about a week in. YouTube TV, of course, a major cable replacement streaming service where you get live TV, a whole collection of channels. Well, ABC, ESPN, and the Disney Channel and others in that group have not been shown on there. And then there's a lot of people upset about that because they rely on it to get their sports, their college football or other major sports, their shows on ABC. And they're playing hardball over the rights. So and what I found interesting, especially about it, is that with YouTube TV, you get an unlimited air quotes DVR. So if you've been recording episodes of your favorite television show or your sports games in recent days or weeks, and it's on your DVR, as soon as this disagreement happened, you were no longer able to access the content that was already recorded on your DVR. And that is especially galling for people that
Yeah.
say, hey, it was one
Full
thing if
on
you
dick
cut me
move.
off going forward, but
Oh, is this about their
Yeah, I mean,
ESPN
Yep.
control?
ESPN, ABC, Disney, and other assorted channels.
I
YouTube TV is not showing for their millions of subscribers.
okay. Well, I was just wondering if this was about their argument about live sports, because I know YouTube is trying to get into the broadcasting live sports, and since Disney owns ESPN, they basically have the market cornered on it.
Yeah, I
this is
mean,
the
the article
scary
says,
bit. This paragraph is scary. YouTube TV's terms of service does state that Google may remove users' DVR recordings when Google is asked to delete or remove access to a recording, and that subscribers are not granted any rights or license by use of recording functions. Flipping hell, man. I tell you,
And you wonder
we're
why.
gonna go back to we're gonna go back to the 10, 15 years ago where everybody's torrenting again, aren't we?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say, and you wonder why the proliferation of piracy has sprung back up.
Yeah.
yeah, it's frustrating. If you're following a team or you're following a series, you don't expect to get cut off, or if you do, you don't expect to have your already recorded shows
Yeah.
from
Lose
previous days
lose the stuff they already
inaccessible.
have. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing: when you like myself, I have two now DVRs for over-the-air television. They can't take it away from me. It's a physical device in my house, two physical devices with attached storage, and once I record something over the air, it's mine. I could keep it forever unless the hard drive crashes, or I could back it up. So that I'd say there's definitely something if you're in an area where you can get over the air television to keep your own real physical DVR, not this virtual DVR. And if you do, if you're a person that is relying completely on streaming, you may want to have some kind of backup plan, even if it is going to the torrents, because you don't want to miss your shows just because these two big corporations are at odds with each other.
Lemon Zest says, "Oh, nothing. Renting at retail prices, and that load can be revoked on a whim." Yes, exactly. Pay to own it, but you don't actually own it, and they can take it just because they said so. But if that's all for that,
Okay.
then I guess it's time to move on to security and privacy. Jim?
Yeah, this is an article. There's been some more updates, but I think the lesson is still important. Londoner sent me a message. It turns out that the person who was writing here may have been mistaken, right? Don't blindly trust every PPA, right? That's my editorialization. There was on GitHub, a user of Linux Mint specifically was complaining how they had installed something from a PPA, as I am wont to do. And he installed something called free RDP from a PPA to use with Winboat, which is an app we discussed recently, where you can use Windows apps on your Linux computer. Well, he attributed the fact that he installed this free RDP from a PPA to the fact that his computer got locked up, at least his home directory got locked up by malware. Now, turns out he may have been mistaken. He might have got that somewhere else. He already wiped his drive out of frustration to solve the problem. So we don't know whether that's true or not. But I still think there's a lesson there. I use several PPAs, but I would not recommend willy-nilly adding PPAs unless you're
I
sure.
mean, there be dragons. You have to
Yeah.
you have to know what you're doing. It's the same thing with like the AUR, for example. It all sounds great and brilliant. You can get all sorts of stuff, but unless you know what you're doing, you could find yourself in trouble very quickly. Now, you're right. I've just been looking through the GitHub stuff. It may not have been through this free RDP PPA, and it might, but he did get some malware, and it did end up on his system. So, you know, obviously it happens somehow or the other, and that is a possible vector. So I think it's just about being a bit sensible, really, and not putting all your eggs in one basket, I suppose.
Yeah, and do your backups regularly just in case. But yeah, that's the first time I heard about someone getting malware on Linux Mint and literally having their home directory locked up and ransom. I've never heard anyone else say that happened to them.
If honestly, if somebody locked up my home directory, I would laugh at them and have a new operating system 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't keep anything on my home path, not even my download directory.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It's a
How do you
habit.
have your setup then?
It's a habit from when SSDs were smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So you wanted all of your storage on your larger, slower media, and you wanted
Right.
your home and your root at on the faster drive, and your applications on the faster drive. So I just tell all my different web browsers to download to a location on another hard drive, and I add a shortcut to that location, get rid of the original download shortcut, and just run that way.
Yeah, I used to do that on Windows for the same reason you just said, because I had a small operating system drive and I had all my documents on an external drive. But once I switched to Linux, I had Windows on the other drive, so I put all my documents. I don't have gigantic, like collections of documents, but yeah, I do keep my important documents in my home folder, but they're backed up to an external drive. So if it did get locked up, I would have backups anyway.
Absolutely. Okay, well, if we're done with that, it's time for Vibrations from the Ether. And we did have one. This is from Cilantro, aka Constantine. Hi, mintCast team. I noticed that the show notes page, and there's a link there, currently stops at episode 468. The pages for newer episodes up to 471 exist, but they don't seem to be linked from the show notes index. Thanks a lot for mintCast. I appreciate your work. Best regards. I checked, and it still seems to be the case. We will have Bill look into it as soon as he can. I do see that the links are missing for everything after 468. Okay, on to check this out. Jim, it looks like these all belong. Well, there's a couple for Majid at the end.
Yeah.
Over to you, Jim.
All right. Well, a few interesting things that I like to share with people that I found useful or interesting recently. First, it's just a website. If you want to view photos or videos on Instagram, but you don't want to be logged in, you can go to imginn.com. I found it very useful. I don't know if all you guys have Instagram, or maybe you used to and you got rid of it, or you just don't want to be logged in, because the minute you log in, you start getting Facebook notifications because it's Meta, it's all connected.
Yep.
You just want to go look at
Exactly.
something, follow a link, and you don't want to get that stupid pop-up that forces you to log in just to go look at one video. You could just go right to imginn.com, put in the account, the site where the Instagram account where you want to go, and it's all accessible. I was able to watch the videos I wanted to do, so it's an interesting, useful site to bookmark to get around those logins.
That's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Bookmark it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, damn right, man. Damn right.
All right, another tip I found. I don't have a whole lot of customizations on Firefox, but there's a few things I've tinkered with over the years. I use as default. If you want your the tabs on top of your Firefox window to be a little skinnier in height, so they're not taking up much space, I found you can go to about:config and then change the browser.ui density property from zero to one. And I included a link to a website that explains it, shows you how to do it. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's not very complicated, but it is there in the show notes if you want to see this gentleman's website where he shows you how it works. And I find it saves some space. I don't need my tabs to be, it feels like they're like an inch tall. Though after you change it, it feels like they're a half an inch tall, roughly. So useful in my opinion. Next, I am going to talk about an app I used to use called App Image Launcher. I've explained on this show how I don't like to use Flatpaks or snaps, but I am comfortable using app images. And App Image Launcher is an app that allows you to, as soon as you double click on a app image, it conveniently creates a menu entry for it with the correct icon and everything. And it just integrates it into your system. So you don't have to, manually click on it in the file explorer or launch it through the terminal. And the problem with that was the old version of App Image Launcher stopped working when we graduated to Linux Mint 22, because that's the Noble Numbat Ubuntu base. However, luckily, the creator has created a new beta, the new version of App Image Launcher, volume 3.00 beta. And now, instead of a PPA like I used to use, if you go to their GitHub, and I've given the link in the show notes, you can download a deb file, which is what I did, or an app image. And now App Image Launcher works wonderfully on Linux Mint and integrates your app images right into the menu. And you could actually tell it what directories to look at. So if you put all your app images in one particular folder, or even if you like to divide them up and put them in multiple different directories organized the way you want, you tell App Image Launcher which directories to follow. And as soon as you download a new app image, double click it, it will get integrated well, and you're off to the races. It works just like any other app.
Oh, that's part of the reasons why I don't use a lot of app images is because of the ball ache of sorting all that out. So this would be another thing I'm going to be checking out.
Yeah, it works great for me on Linux Mint 22. Okay, so next, this is something that I use, load all Reddit comments. All right, so I assume most of us read Reddit. If you're scrolling it on your phone, you're probably you do sometimes?
Yeah, all the time.
Some people don't like to admit they use it, I find, but
sometimes when you're looking for information, that's the only place you're going to find it. So
yeah. Yeah, it is very useful, I think, for Linux and tech stuff, but also, it's entertaining to read it has everything, right? So whatever other topics you're looking at, entertainment, music, TV, movies, anything obscure, even not safe for work stuff, whatever you're using it for. If you're on the desktop or your laptop, as many of us know, when there are threads that have dozens or hundreds or even thousands of posts, and usually you want to read the post because, especially for tech stuff, the poster is interesting as the original. The follow-up poster is interesting as the original. You have to manually click and open up many of these nested comments. It is really annoying, right? Because you might have to do that dozens and dozens of times. I think they force you to do that because they don't want to have to serve up thousands and thousands of, comments in the thread, because it probably is heavy on their server. And maybe they're also getting you to click longer and keep you in the thread longer. In any case, there's a bit of code that I found years ago. And what it does is it's a bit of JavaScript, and I effectively turn it into a bookmarklet. You can go onto your bookmark toolbar, hit Control-Shift-B in Firefox. I usually keep that hidden, but you take this little bit of JavaScript code, you put it in there as if it was a URL for a bookmark, to a website, and then you assign a keyword to it, like in my case, load or anything you want. And then if you type load in the URL bar, it will trigger this bit of JavaScript. It's a very useful feature that Firefox is able to run bits of JavaScript like this. So if you're a keyboard focused person like me, you could hit Control L, it'll focus the URL bar, type LOAD, and boom, it triggers it without touching your mouse. And it will start unfurling all of those nested comments. It may take a few minutes, right? Because it takes a little time. It'll go through and start unfurling all these comments. And then when it's all done, you could, hit like pay or home or page up, get to the top of the page. And now, without laboriously clicking all these nested comments to open them up, you can now scroll down the page like I do with page down and start reading all the comments without having to do it manually. I find it to be a huge time saver. It's not perfect. Sometimes some of the nested comments get stuck, for want of a better word. They don't open properly. But still, if you have hundreds or thousands of comments and you don't want to scroll through opening up many of them, this bookmarklet can do that. So I put the code in there. It's in the show notes. I know there are some other places that get similar features. But yeah, I find it to be very useful. I could never go back to read a long Reddit thread and just manually click, 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 just to see, what's in the next nested comment. Okay, so I added something earlier today. I'm going to talk about this briefly. I don't know how many of you guys still use IRC. I still do.
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of passé. It was big in the 90s, but it's still alive and well. And there are a lot of Linux and tech channels on the Libera network, for example. But I discovered something, or maybe I rediscovered it. I did not know that you could connect to the same network with two different connections through a single app. Well, I learned that because I wanted to be able to use one username on one or two channels and a different username on the other 30 channels or whatever I'm in, right? Effectively having like two identities. And there are many clients that could do this. And I, in particular, use IRC Cloud, but you don't have to. There are free and open source clients if you prefer. But as long as you're not ban evading or spamming or talking to yourself with two different through the two different connections, pretending you're two different people, as long as you're not up to any of those kind of games, it is not a problem. I specifically asked some of the mods at Libera. They said, yeah, you can connect to that channel over there with that username, because your username goes per connection. And then you could be this other username over here and these other bunch of channels, and it's not a problem. So I overcame something that I thought was a limitation of old school IRC, just like you can do on Linux and use a different username in different channels. So just something I discovered and I'm happy about. So that's it for my discoveries, and on to Majid.
Yeah, so I had I lost it now. Sorry, just lost my show notes. There was two things that I wanted to share. One was Tailscale. So as I've mentioned before, I've been getting on with using servers and getting into Docker containers and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people have told me about, a way of accessing my home network from outside using Tailscale. So there is a fantastic video from the Tailscale team, which is how to get started with Tailscale in under 10 minutes, and it is ridiculously easy. And I was able to connect all of my devices to it. I wouldn't say that it was completely friction free. I found that some of my Docker containers started playing up a little bit. And there's an argument, oh, is this a solution in need of a problem? I mean, there are obviously lots of people who do for which there is a solution. Do I personally have a problem that requires this solution? I'm still not 100% sure, but it is a cool piece of technology. And yeah, within 10 minutes, you can get it up and running. And then the other thing that I wanted to put in the check this out was on a recent episode of Late Night Linux, Joe Ressington actually had an interview with Mark Shuttleworth, which is a bit of a scoop, I think. Mark Shuttleworth, the head honcho at Canonical and Ubuntu. And I thought it was very interesting. Worth a listen. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. It's only about 20 minutes, I think, maybe even less than that, actually, 15 at the end of the latest episode. But it's good, it's interesting, and I always like listening to Mark. I mean, I think he does get a bit of bad press for being a bit of a benevolent dictator, but his reasoning is always very well argued and framed. So, yeah, I thought it was very interesting interview. So, yeah, check that out.
Helps if I unmute. Well, I think
Yes, it
that's it
does.
for check this out. On to housekeeping and announcements. Thank you for listening to this episode of mintCast. If you see something that you think we should be talking about, tell us. Send us an email, mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. Post at the mintcast subreddit. Chat with us on Discord and Telegram. Or post directly at mintcast.org. Next episode, 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time on Sunday, November 23rd, 2025. Link in the show notes to get that converted to your time zone. Next Saturday, we will host a roundtable live stream. Please come and join us using the Discord voice channel at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time on Saturday, November 15th, 2025. And also link in the show notes to get that converted to your time zone. And live stream information is at mintcast.org/livestream. Well, for our wrap up, I've been Joe. You can catch me on a couple other podcasts. I'm on the Linux Link Tech Show, which is tllts.org. I'm on the Linux Lugcast, which is linuxlugcast.com. Send me an email, jb@mintcast.org, or buy me a coffee with Ko-fi. Link in the show notes. Moss couldn't be here with us today, but you can catch him at Full Circle Weekly News, Moss at BodhiLinux.com, and on Mastodon, he's at Zyvala at Hostux.social, and occasionally he puts out a show on HPR. Bill, for technical difficulties, also could not be here with us today. He's Bill at mintcast.org, Bill_H on Discord, at WCHauser3 at Fostodon.org on Mastodon. You can also check out his other two podcasts, Linux OTC. Oh, I guess it's only one podcast now since he's no longer doing Free Fat Truckers. So Linux OTC with Eric and Majid. Majid?
So you can email me at drmajid@mintcast.org. And I also have the Atypical Doctor podcast. Did a episode last week, which was very well received. And I'm also on Linux OTC with Eric and Bill. Eric can be reached by email at eric@mintcast.org. Charles can be with us. Charles is available on email as well, charles@mintcast.org, and also Mr. PDX on Discord.
Jim?
I could be reached at jim@mintcast.org. I go by GNU2Linux on Discord, and I occasionally make a podcast of my own on the Linux Shortcut on YouTube.
Before we leave, we would like to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who make mintCast possible. Bill for our audio editing and for hosting the server, which runs our website maintenance, and the Nextcloud server on which we host our show notes and raw audio. Archive.org for hosting our audio files. Obstar for our logo, and NidRD for the animated Discord logo. Londoner for our time syncs and various other contributions. And the Linux Mint development team for the distro we love to talk about. Thanks, Clem.
Thanks, Clem.
And Co.
Woohoo!
And
that's a wrap.
All right.
Not bad, eh? Not bad.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right, I better stop Craig. How do I stop Craig again? I press the stop button, probably.
And I